Yo, what's up, everybody? Bren here, back with another stream. Friday, October 17th. Hope everybody's having an amazing day. With all things considered, obviously Bitcoin down big today. Everything in crypto pretty much down a lot. We'll go ahead and talk about that towards the end of the show here today. We'll talk about why I put out the tweet a few days ago, talking about why I thought Bitcoin was going to come down probably under 100K. But before that, we have something much better. We have a special guest, Ron from Basement Ron. Anybody who's been around in meme coins, who hasn't been under a rock for the last year, knows Ron from UFD fame. But today we're going to talk about UFD, meme coins in general, CCM. But Ron is a big gold and silver bug. He streams every day, or how many days a week, Ron?
Well, I stream every day for Unicorn Fart Dust and a couple times a week for the precious metals community.
Right on. Yeah. So he streams, pretty much his YouTube streams are based heavily or almost based solely around gold and silver, which have obviously exploded the last few weeks. So definitely want to talk to him about that. Lots to talk about. We have about 30 to 40 minutes with him. Ron, for those of you guys don't know, is a OG investor, gold and silver bug, meme coin dev, and just like an overall amazing, positive individual. Super excited to talk to him today.
Yeah.
Ron, before we get into it, how have the last few months been treating you, brother?
It's been great. The UFD community continues to grow, continues to, I think, exhibit very high quality behavior and characteristics, and things have been good in the gold and silver world. I can't complain. The last few months have been really good, and I just want to say thank you for having me on, Bren. I know you're highly thought of, and before we forget, we'll send a shout out to Fish, a fan of yours and a member of the UFD community, for making this happen.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to Fish. Shout out to everybody in UFD. Before we get started, if you're from the UFD community, put UFD in the chat. I know there's probably a lot of you guys in here. Already 241 people in the last 3 minutes. Super excited. We are at the end of the stream. We'll do a little bit of Q&A. So if you guys have any chart requests, questions, anything for myself or Ron, definitely leave it in there. But yes, UFD. I'm a big believer, and I'm excited to hear your stance on meme coins in general. But I'm a big believer that on this next leg up, when the majors, obviously trend higher again, that meme coins and tokenized communities in general have seen nowhere near peak attention. I believe as things go more digital, tokenized communities, cult-like movement-like communities, especially like UFD, are only going to continue to grow. But before we get into UFD, I want to talk a little bit about your start. Did you when did you start in investing? Was gold and silver your first foray in investing, or was it something else?
I was interested in investing at a very early age. I remember I was about 18 years old, and there used to be a store. You may be too young to remember this, Bren, but there was a store called Sears Roebuck, and they had a Dean Witter financial advisors were part of. And I remember buying stock when I was 18 years old in Texas Instruments, and listening to this stockbroker. My grandpa, who I was pretty close to, he was into investing and read the Wall Street Journal every day. So really at an early age, but gold and silver probably around the year 2000 is when when the tech bubble burst was the first time I got a real taste of gold and silver. And then when the great financial crisis in 2008 came around, I learned a lot more about silver and gold and precious metal mining stocks. And I liked the idea that they were timeless stores of value, that they were decentralized. Everywhere in the world, gold and silver are valuable, and it's been that way for a long time. That they're scarce. And coincidentally, when I learned about crypto, I learned that those same characteristics can be applied to the cryptocurrency arena as well.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. I definitely want to get into your thoughts on Bitcoin versus gold and the different characteristics. But so you dipped into metals pretty early on. Were you dabbling, and to this day, do you still dabble in equities, or is it mostly metals and what you do with UFD?
Yeah, no, I do. I've always enjoyed stocks. I mean, I'm not like a big stock trader or anything like that, but I do follow in particular, the precious metal mining stocks and the junior stocks, which are somewhat similar to the meme coin sector, very volatile. They're the smaller side of the precious metals equity side, so I've always followed them very closely.
Okay. Right on. And when you first started with in metals and with gold and stuff back then, was it more people were focused more on what was the narrative, the driving narrative? Right now, a lot of it with gold obviously is inflation,
Yeah.
uh, dollar debasement. Was it always like that, or was it more
Yeah.
of a different narrative? Yeah.
Nope, it's always been that. I mean, and I was very early. A lot of the people that are into precious metals were very early. It really is, and I'm not trying to divert this conversation. It really is the same reason why people like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, because if you have, the ability to work a basic calculator, you can figure out that unfortunately, and I don't say this from a happy perspective, that the future for the US dollar, which has been the same with any paper fiat based currency, really just doesn't look really, very optimistic, I guess you could say. So people want to protect themselves. And before crypto, the biggest way that people could do that was by investing in silver and gold.
Yeah, right on. And I do want to get more into gold on the back end of the show. But so you said the 2008 really strengthened your uh conviction in gold and everything. When did you
Yeah.
first get into streaming?
I got into streaming when I was 50. Well, seriously, when I was about 52 years old, and I'm going to be 56 here in February. So about 3.5 years ago, I have kids and they were growing up, and I was kind of at that mid 50s range where I was like, either I'm going to put myself out to pasture or I'm going to do something with the rest of my life. And I knew that I thought that I could provide value to people, and then I woke up, and you and I are doing it right now, Bren. Like, I realized how lucky I was that to have an opportunity to sit in my basement and to talk to people all over the world. And if I did a good job and I provided value to people out there, that more people would watch, and that it could be successful, and maybe I could make a little money at it. So I think I answered your question about 4 years ago.
Okay. Right on. Now, did you start with was that YouTube like the first platform you started
Yeah.
on? Did you have a following on Twitter or anything
No,
prior to stream?
nobody followed me on Twitter until I got into UFD. I didn't really spend any time on Twitter. I was a YouTube purist, and I read books and I learned about YouTube, how to, how to basically, in a nutshell, how to provide value to people. Like you and I are doing right now. It's you and me, but I don't know how many people you said, 200 plus people are out there, and we can provide them with some entertainment, some education, or some combination thereof, right? They're going to stick around and hang out with us here for a little while.
Amazing. Yeah. No, but you kind of said it already by providing value, but maybe somebody who's starting out, who, like you said, like yourself was kind of fence setting,
Yeah.
like what's something that's like helped you early on to kind of get to that 60K followers that you think somebody who's just starting out should focus on building, streaming on YouTube, Twitter, wherever it may be?
Yeah, that okay, boy, we're gonna go over time now that you asked me that question. What I had to learn, I'd had a pretty successful career over the years, but I always had this tendency to start things, and when they were fun and exciting, I would be all pumped up, and then 5 or 6 weeks in, when it wasn't so much fun anymore, I would just give up, right? Quit because I didn't have to keep doing it. And when I got on this YouTube journey, like I said, about 4 years ago, I told myself that I was going to do it for a year. I was going to put out one piece of content every single day. And a critical thing that I did, and I think maybe the two big critical things were the discipline to stick to it. But the other one was that I wanted to learn something new every day. And Bren, we live in a time right now, again, like you and I are doing, communicating, doing a live stream, where there's so much free information. I mean, it was especially when you're first starting out, there's a lot of low hanging fruit, right? Like I didn't know that a good microphone could make a big difference, just little things to learn to make the product that I was giving and connecting with this community of people that were following me a better experience. So the two things I would say, number one, you got to be willing to learn. And I have a black notebook where for a year I would not go to bed until I learned something. And I call it my little black book. I still carry it with me pretty much everywhere I go, and I'll pop it open just to review one of those things that I learned. But probably just as important is you got to stick with stuff. Anything that's good in life that's worth achieving is going to be hard, because if it wasn't hard, everybody would be doing it. I've got a sign over there that basically says, 97% of people give up, right? And when you hit that period where it's hard, where maybe Bryn wakes up on Friday morning, it doesn't feel like doing his live stream, but he committed to doing it, and you do it anyway, right? No matter what, and you do your best, and you're surprised at how good you do. That's when a lot of other people quit. If that makes sense, right? Like when it gets hard, you can take some solace and feel good about what you're doing, because most other people quit when it gets hard. And I didn't quit, and I'm glad I didn't, because now I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't either. But it's no, 100%. That's exactly what I tell people when they ask me. The biggest things to focus on is number one, that you want to work your butt off learning something every single day, but also give yourself time to focus
Yeah.
and learn the skills. This is a long journey, especially with crypto too. Like we're just kind of getting started, metals, everything. Um, and yeah, just that's what I always tell people to focus on too, is one, learning, and then also it's a long journey.
Yeah.
If you don't see results, like myself, for example, I'm coming up on my 10th year when I first started dabbling with crypto. And it took me 5 or 6 years to really make any real money. And then on that sixth year, I pretty much had to like start over. So it's,
Yeah.
if you're not seeing results in the first few years, you got to focus on those skills, whether it be, charts, whatever research, whatever it may be. And the results will come. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
and I'll say one more thing, when motivation fails you, discipline will not, right? If you stick to, if it's still a goal that really know you want to achieve, having discipline, right, will get you way further than being super highly intelligent, or you can be the smartest person in the world, and if you don't show up, like you said, and learn, and if you don't show up and you got to be on the ice to score a goal, right? I mean, you got to show up.
exactly. Now let's get into UFD. I know that's
All
why
right.
a lot of people are here. Now I know, actually such a fascinating story. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, the name UFD came around because you called crypto unicorn fart dust, right? Like it was useless, or it's
Yeah.
something you didn't pay attention to. Now what took you from that point to creating the coin in general?
Yeah, well, there was no strategy behind the launch of UFD. It was really purely divine intervention, a coincidence, however you want to say it. I did throughout 2024 soften my stance towards crypto. And then after the presidential election, and I saw everything going on, I really began to become much more open to crypto at that point. But really, on December 15th, my wife upstairs, Susie, sent me an article about Fartcoin, that it was $400 million market cap. And at the bottom of that article, there was a little sentence that said that people can start their own cryptocurrency meme coins on Pump Fund. I think it said for like $20. And I'm a notorious resourceful person with my money. And that caught my attention. But it wasn't until the next day that I watched a 10-minute YouTube video about how to launch a meme coin on Pump Fund, that I actually took the action to get it started.
Okay. And what was your thought like going into, you're like, I'm just going to do this for fun? Like, what were your expectations? Did you even think it was going to go to a couple million market cap? Like, what were your expectations?
Buddy, I had no expectations. Like I said, there was no strategy behind it. It was a Monday morning. I had finished my normal gold and silver live stream where I talked about that article that I mentioned, the 400 million market cap fart coin. I think I definitely made fun of it, said it's stupid, crazy. Then my cousin's son, so I think that's my first cousin once removed, technically, called me, and he's a super smart guy. And we were talking, and I mentioned to him, I said, can you believe that this fart coin is worth $400 million? And then I joked with him. I said I should start a meme coin, and he said, yeah, you should call it Unicorn Fart Dust. And I said, you know what? And it all came together right then. I thought of that article. I thought, you know what? I think I will. And then that set into place the sequence of events that have transpired since then.
Ah, that's amazing. So obviously it caught you by surprise. What do you think was the biggest factors, or the few factors that took it from 0 to 240 million in a couple days, versus other coins that were out at that time?
I think that at least initially, the overwhelming feeling that I received was that, unbeknownst to me, I was a breath of fresh air in the meme coin sector. I think the Hawktua girl thing had happened.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but immediately what I got told was, "Wow, you are different. You are." I think it was just because I was so transparent. And, if there's one thing, it's real simple, Bren. What I've done from the very first second that I created Unicorn Fart Dust was I just treated people, and including the people that own the coin, the way that I would want to be treated. And, doing a rug pull or whatever, just doesn't even kind of come into my thoughts. So yeah, that was, I think just that I came in, I'd like to tell you that I was smart enough to have planned all this, but the reality is it just happened. And I think then, just by me being me, it's and the community being the community, because this really has been a community takeover literally from the very beginning, because I was the ultimate butter. I mean, from the first live
Yeah.
stream I did about Unicorn Fart Dust, my sage advice, and I always tell people I don't give financial advice, and the only advice I did give was really bad. I told people on the first day, don't buy Unicorn Fart Dust. And then somebody bought it in the middle of the live stream, which shocked me. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I agree. I think the reason why it took off so heavily is kind of was a breath of fresh air. Most people in the space are anonymous. And you came in, OG, already knowing all this stuff and having the live stream. Most of these other meme coins in general were just based around pictures or movements. And then why I'm really bullish on really was bullish on UFD, and why I still remain bullish, is because you guys have a movement type community, which I kind of I'm the most bullish on in all of meme coins. Plus, you have an operator in yourself, which I know that you say it's heavily community based, which I know it's mostly community, but you have an operator like yourself, a figure behind the coin, and
Mhm.
combining those two things together, I think it is going to be very bullish during this next kind of meme wave. Before we get into that, I know that hack obviously that went down.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers that. There was a lot of craziness around that day. I
Yeah.
remember. just real quickly before we move on, what were your thoughts when that happened? Like, remind the viewers, did you wake up and see it, or did it happen during the
No,
middle of the day?
it happened in the middle of the day. I was sitting right here. It was, I don't know, maybe 6, 8 weeks into the project. So, I'd been sleeping like 3 or 4 hours a night, and it was crazy. It was a fake interview that someone had set up, and they did a very, very good job of setting up this fake interview. It was a Zoom call, and they basically convinced me to click on a link because they wanted me to share the UFD website with them. They said, but I couldn't do that, so they put up a link for me to click. I clicked it. Shortly thereafter, about 5 minutes later, they kind of abruptly ended the interview, and now I know why. And that was because at that point they had gained access to my Phantom wallet. I now have a ledger. Everything's on cold storage, but back then I made the mistake of not listening to people and thinking it would never happen to me, and I just kept everything on my on a Phantom wallet. And yeah, so the live stream ended. I Like I do, I'll do when we end here. I went to check my phone to see if and I had all these messages because the hacker drained my wallet and then immediately sold all the UFD. So people thought that I was dumping. They thought that was me, dumping the UFD. So I was just, I mean, it was, I don't know what feelings I was having. It was horrible. It was traumatic. Definitely one of the worst things that happened in my life. But we survived, and we're still here.
Yeah, it was an amazing story around that. I remember there was a lot of people saying, oh, he did it himself, all that. But then when you break down the story, I actually had probably not like a company like that hit me up recently, and they were using another podcast that was real,
Yeah,
clips, and
yeah,
they actually it went as far as to make a whole Spotify podcast that
right.
looked real and everything, and that almost got me to join one of those one time,
It was
and
pretty
then
similar to what they did to me. And no offense, but if you threw something up on my screen and told me to click it, I would say no.
yeah, of course, of course. Uh, but that's amazing. So I assume the community obviously is what got you through it.
Yeah,
They raised you 500K back in the coin,
yeah,
launched that other coin, which enabled you to get some more money back.
yeah,
Which I want to lead into that with the community. I assume you're you're a gold bug, silver bug. Your gold investments are probably up crazy. The past few years, unicorn fart dust is down 90% with the rest of the market. What
yeah.
keeps you still going? What keeps you still wanting to build this? Despite what the market's doing. Do you see a long term path with tokenized communities and meme coins in general? I mean, what keeps you still going?
Yeah, absolutely. The community is what keeps me going, right? I mean, I think there's two things, and I wrote them down on one of my little cards here that I think will define the success of Unicorn Fart Dust or any other good meme coin project. That's the community and the fact that we have digital scarcity, right? Not to get into the gold and silver thing, but that's what makes gold and silver valuable are their scarcity and some other qualities as well. And that's, I believe, what makes UFD valuable. There's only one UFD. It's the only meme coin that I've ever created. Nobody can ever create another unicorn fart dust. There's only 999 million tokens, we call them beans, that are out there. So we have that scarcity, right? But the scarcity, there's only one project, there's only so many of the tokens. But the real defining factor is community. And it's real simple, right? I mean, that's in meme coins. And now that I've been in crypto for all of 10 months, now officially, people complicate everything. They want everything to be so, all these utility, all this stuff, all this crazy stuff. And when I learned about like kind of the original ethos of crypto, and what Bitcoin and I guess Satoshi laid out, it was real straightforward. I heard Jack Dorsey say it the other day. It's very deliberate. That's what makes Bitcoin so. And so knowing that, like, just if we keep to the basics, the community continues to grow. And on top of that, I got to say this, Bren, our community, I think, is different in a pretty big way from most of the other communities. And I want to throw in, there's a lot of other great meme coin communities, no doubt, but our community, the people that are in it are, I think, like just very simply, like very high quality, very professional. Maybe even, if I could use the word, this is a strange word to use sometimes in the crypto world, but generally speaking, very much even mature, and I think understand and have like this great like connection to what we're doing, this like shared mission and togetherness. And yeah, I do think that I think that in terms of tokenized communities, Web3, all that we are still in the very early stages, and that there is real value that I see every day created within UFD in a very good way, a very positive way, that I think will continue to add to the energy of the project, and add to kind of the good that the community can do in crypto and meme coins. And that's what people say, I want things to change in meme coins, and all I say is, well, for UFD, the best way we can make change in the world of meme coins is by us being successful, because we are doing a project that's based on good attracts good.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Everybody I've come across, um, in UFD is definitely more mature. It tends to be a more of like a more mature, sometimes older crowd, a lot of people who are very positive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm very big in meme coins in general. I think tokenized communities in general are going to grow as the world becomes more digital, as people are looking for ways to escape, ways to get ahead. And I'm a really big believer in movement communities. And I think you guys not only have a movement and a belief of UFD as a meme coin, but also based around heavily around charity,
Yeah.
around doing cool stuff like that. So I want to get a little bit into that. I know you guys
Sure.
have, I think it's called Trust in the Dust. Is that something? Am I saying that wrong?
Yeah, trust. Hold on a minute. I have it back. Darn it, where'd I put it? Yes, trust in the dust, and people are holding up their piece of paper on the camera. Yes.
Yeah. So Trust in the Dust and like some other charity stuff.
Yeah.
Can you go a little bit into that
Well,
and Trust in the
yeah,
Dust and some of the other charity stuff you guys are
yeah.
doing?
So, and those are kind of separate, but we did our very first charity drive for a pediatric cancer foundation called Live Like a Unicorn, LIV like a unicorn. They've been around a little over 10 years. They basically support children and the families of children that are going through pediatric cancer. They're based out of New Jersey. They also support cancer research. But one of the coolest things they do, this little girl named Olivia, which is where the name Live, LIV, like a unicorn, came from. She unfortunately passed away from pediatric cancer. But when she was going to the hospital to get her treatments, her parents would send boxes with different, toys and whatnot in there for her. So anyway, that's what a big part of what the charity does now is send out what they call unicorn boxes to these children all over the country that are going through cancer treatment. So we were last I checked, able to raise almost $5,000. We do have a charity wallet. Maybe I'll send it to you afterwards if you want to throw it up, or if people want to reach out to me, I can
Yeah.
get the address to you. Or Georgie 420 on X there's a woman named Georgie who basically, and there's other people that helped as well, but she worked tirelessly on this initiative.
And that's amazing. I love how again movements I think are gonna be the only thing that lasts in meme coins. I
Yeah,
think meme coins that are based around singular pictures will have their time. Singular pictures or people or events, but movements there has to be something deeper than the price itself going up.
we we
Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bren, but
yeah,
before I forget, I agree with you 100%. And that's what I would told people, like, this is real. Like what we are doing. That was a big thing for me to get over, because it was all unicorn fart dust. That's what I said crypto was, right? That was a big deal. One of the first big aha moments I had, like, wow, these communities are real. These communities can create real value. And yeah, the Live Like a Unicorn Foundation, I mean, I don't know, all kinds of, we've got a DJ dance party show every Friday night, DJ Litmus. that does like a live on X, and it's awesome. Goes for a couple hours, gets thousands of people oftentimes watching it. We've got
I
a
saw you
race.
guys were doing a Halloween rave or something,
Yeah,
right?
we got a race car driver, Andre, who's racing this weekend, I think in El Salvador. He's got UFD stickers on his car. I mean, the list goes on. We have NFT, massive NFT projects. So this, I mean, to me, and then I promise I'll shut up, Bren. But to me, that was like a big thing for me because when I thought of crypto, I just thought of, well, make believe money. And when I realized that it's based on community in people believing in something, and that there is real value there, just like there's real value in like a country club or a Lions club or even a family, right? That like the relationship and the bonds and the common uh, goals that people have can really. I mean, hey, $5,000 to live like a unicorn is real, right? I mean, that's going to make little boxes are going to get delivered to some kids, to because of what people in our community did.
Exactly. And I think that's why coins like UFD and the ones that are continuing to do focusing on the movement and stuff outside of the price are really going to
Yeah,
bounce back here. Um, I want to get it. I wish we had more time to get into the NFT stuff. I think you guys, that's great. You guys are doing that. I think there's going to be a big, when meme coins bounce back, I think NFTs kind of will be hot around that time too. Either way, the meme coin NFT thing where the community has a digital or a on chain way to uh, represent their favorite, community unicorn fart dust. I think that's going to be massive.
yeah,
So I'm glad you guys did that. Um, quick question, just to close off the UFD thing.
yeah.
Meme coins obviously down, most of them down 90%, even the greatest project. What do you think brings these meme coins, like at least the movement ones, back to glory? Do you think it's back to like glory and all-time highs? Do you think it's mostly a condition thing? Kind of got to wait for the majors to obviously, conditions improve on there, or what do you think really is, brings meme coins back to their, 2024,
Yeah,
level?
I speculate or I theorize that let's say 12 months or 18 months from now that the meme coin sector is going to look very different. It feels like to me after 10 long months, 10 short months of being in meme coins that it's still kind of a circus in a lot of ways, that there's a handful, but I would say a select group of projects that are really high quality, really focused on long term growth, really focused on all the things that you mentioned already. And I think that it's kind of like right now, we're the meme coin sector is like a Wild West town at like 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night. And 18 months from now, right? It's going to be like 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning when all the craziness, all the dust has settled down. And there's going to be a couple really good projects that are left standing that people are going to look at as being safe and reliable. And that is more people. This is another key that I think could really help the meme coin sector, is that as more people come into crypto, right, as the overall adoption rates for crypto go up, because right now it's like what, 7-8% of the people in the world own crypto. That number I believe is going to go up. I think it's like we're in the equivalent of the early days of the internet, the early days of email, cell phones, whatever you want to compare it to. But when we get to 25% of the world population, or 50 or 60 or 99%, there will be a lot more money in the overall crypto sector, and that people will get interested in meme coins. People will get, I mean, people like to be part of communities. That's like a primary need. And there's a epidemic of isolation in the world. So when all those things
Yep.
come together, that meme coins could do very well.
100%. I am definitely in agreement. I'm glad you said that. It's like early internet days.
Yeah.
Somebody who obviously, and what year did you start?
Are you
No,
calling
I
me?
don't
Did
want.
you just, Bren? Did you
No, no,
just
no.
call me old, Bren?
No, 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 no.
I'm
Your
joking.
experience. No, no. But somebody, you obviously have lived through the early internet days. Obviously, you're not exact. It's not exact, but like, what year would you say crypto is compared to like internet was? Like
Yeah.
late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. No, Brent, I remember using a rotary dial telephone, so you're not going to offend me. I would say that we are probably, I remember when I first got internet access, and it was through AOL, and it was like a certain number of minutes per month, so I had to like be really fast when I was on the computer. I really think we're about at that stage right now, which would have been, I don't know, right around the like late 90s, early 2000s. I think we're early. I think there's big benefits to crypto, massive benefits to crypto, and that just natural market forces and people migrating to, to a technology that has big benefits, that it's inevitable that it's going to happen.
Right on. I 100% agree. I know you probably only have about 5 more minutes, right? So I want
I'm
to.
fine. If we go another 5-10 minutes, we're okay. I will warn you. My daughters and their friends are going to they get off school early today. So if you hear what might sound like a herd of horses running around above me, that would be what it is.
No worries, no worries. So I want to get into gold and the overall markets a
Yeah.
bit. Obviously, gold and silver especially the
Yeah.
past year have gone on an absolute tear. You've been a long term silver um, and gold bull. For you,
Hmm.
you said obviously it's always been a hedge against inflation, debasement, all of the above.
Yeah.
Obviously, somebody I want to get to the to somebody who is looking at gold and silver today, obviously up big.
Yeah.
What are some reasons that maybe obviously everybody should make their own decisions, but a reason that people should be looking at metals and gold versus something like crypto that they naturally think is, younger. What are some reasons why younger people maybe should be looking at silver and gold and metals at this stage?
Yeah, I'll say this to start, and there's people out there that do not agree with me on this, but in my mind, when I think of crypto and I think of gold and silver, they're essential. They're like looking at a set of identical twins, right? They're different, but they're a lot more similar than they are different. So, here's I keep a little bit. I've always been more of a silver bug, to be honest with you. I love gold. I love gold mining stocks, but I don't know if you guys can see that. That's a 5 ounce bar of silver. I think the easiest argument for this would be that 1,000 years ago, this was basically as valuable as it is today. 2,000, 3,000, because silver was used as money before gold was. So thousands of years ago, I mean, you and I, Bren, right? Like we have a great grandpa and grandma from the 90th or 500th degree that lived, 3,000 years ago. If they'd passed this down through the family for all those years, it essentially would buy the same thing today. I've heard people say like an ounce of gold bought a bushel of wheat 1,000 years ago, and I'm sorry, an ounce of silver bought a bushel of wheat 1,000 years ago, and an ounce of silver still buys a bushel of wheat today. There's a similar example with a fine suit of clothes for a man and an ounce of gold, right? Like 2,000 years ago, it bought the best turban or whatever that money could buy, and today it would buy an Armani suit. So it's a timeless, decentralized, democratized store of value. It's physical. The exact same thing can be said about crypto, but crypto is digital. That's really in my eyes anyway, the big primary difference between crypto and metals.
Okay, right on.
You didn't ask me that question. I'm sorry. What
No, you gave me no, you answered my question and more, so that was good. The for someone who's getting into metals, like a beginner, like what's the simplest way that they could start stacking gold or silver without falling for scams or overpaying, stuff like that?
Yeah, I would look at the Google what's called the spot price of silver, which is like comes from the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association. That's like the current market price for an ounce of silver. And then, whether you go to a local coin shop or there's a bunch of places online. My gold and silver content is sponsored by a company called First Mint, which is part of First Majestic Silver, which is a huge publicly traded silver mining company. But just make sure two things: that you're not being overcharged. Don't fall for any, unless you're really into Star Wars, don't pay. If you're buying an ounce of silver, you should be paying at most 5 or 10% over the current spot price. And there's a lot of collectible and different things out there. You know, I would recommend if you're starting out, don't fall for that. But also make sure that you're dealing with somebody reputable, because there can be, just like there's scams in crypto, there can be, if you see an advertisement online to buy an ounce of silver for $20 an ounce when the market price is 50, if it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. So did that answer your question, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Juicy asked, how does the gold pump of today look compared to when gold pumped really hard back in the 70s and 80s? Can we see something similar here?
Yeah. So, gold and silver both pumped really hard in the 70s. Silver went from think like $1.50 all the way to $50 per ounce. So I think it was like 27x or 30x. And gold did something not quite. I think gold went up 17 times. It's a very similar situation. What it comes down to is unfortunately, because I live in America and I was born here, love my country, all that great stuff, but it's loss in confidence in the U.S. dollar, and that's happening now. But I would argue that we're even in more extreme conditions now. Like back then, the national debt was a fraction of what we have now, which is $38 trillion. I don't know, 250, 300,000 per taxpayer. And the world has changed as well. Geopolitically, of course, with wars going on. But on top of that, now we have China and India, which are major, major economic forces. And back in the 70s, they were a fraction of what they were now. And people in China and India love gold and silver. So, from a number of different perspectives, the precious metals, and I think crypto as well, I always want to keep throwing that in, are positioned to do well. The number one reason, Bren, is stagflation, which is what happened during the 70s, a stagnant economy with inflation. And I believe, and I've been saying this for 2 years, I've got this, where did it go? I have a box that I made. Can you see that box, Bren?
Yes,
It,
sir.
it says do not open, right? And inside that box is our friend Jerome Powell, and that's a roll of, roll of toilet paper, which is $100 bills. Okay.
Nice.
And the reason I made this box, it just hit me. And I put an R on one side for a recession, an I on the other side for inflation, is that's stagflation, a recession with inflation. And that puts, not to get into a monetary policy discussion here, but that puts the Fed in a very tough situation, because if they want to fight inflation, they need to raise interest rates. But if they raise interest rates, that slows the economy down, which makes the recession worse. And if they want to fight the recession, they need to cut rates. So now we're in the situation where the Fed's being pressured massively to cut interest rates, but we're set up for just what I think could be, let's just say, very severe inflation as we head into the next couple of years.
Cool. Yeah. Not to go too much into that, but I'm just to touch on that. Overall markets, S&P, the indexes are coming down. Even silver and gold are
Yeah.
coming down too. Do you think this is a, foreshadowing something to do with what you're saying, stagflation and the economy slowing down? Where do you see the markets over the next few months going into 2026?
Yeah, that I would say be prepared for volatility. That I at no other period in my life would I have I felt like, let's say if we look out 3 months, that we're going to have some periods of volatility. I think that the administration in Washington likes drama and likes kind of some extreme measures, right? Not to get too deep into that, but be prepared for volatility. The general markets are very high. I do think that in the end, and I've said this for months and months now, that crypto and precious metals are going to be just fine, because if the market's correct at all, I mean, that guy in that box that I just showed you, Jerome Powell, and really the powers that be that control kind of the liquidity spigots, the money printing abilities, they are, if the stock market crashes, the whole economy is going to crash. Because at no other time in history has the economy been so dependent upon the stock market doing well as the conditions that we're in right now.
Okay, so you're saying the powers that be are incentivized to not at
Oh,
least stock market from
they're gonna
completely. No,
Yeah. What we're going to see is we're in. I'll go on for just a few more minutes, Brent, if that's okay. What we're going to
no worries.
see.
I just have one more question after this, and
Okay.
you've given me so much. I
Uh,
appreciate you so much.
yeah, no problem. I appreciate the platform and everybody who's joining us. People talk about the tech bubble. People talk about the real estate bubble. What we're in right now is an everything bubble because it's the dollar and it's the national debt. And the dollar basically at this point is debt. So what we're probably going to see, right? Even if the stock market from a nominal perspective, right? Like I think the Dow's at what 46,000, whatever. Okay, if it stays where it is, but they have to put so much liquidity in the market that it makes the value of the dollar go down and down and down, and even at an increased rate compared to what we've experienced over the last 10 years. The stock market could remain static, but the value of what you can buy with those dollars will go down, which again is why people love Bitcoin and why people love gold and silver. So that's what I see happening. Yeah, there could be some big moves, right? If but they're not going to let the stock market crash and for any amount of time. But I do think that we're going to see possibly see some pretty erratic moves.
Okay, so you think that obviously a dollar debasement is going to continue.
Oh yeah,
The system is just obviously high on it. It needs to continue for everything to go, and they're not going to let the system
exactly.
deflate. So, okay, I love that. One more question. Obviously, this is something that a lot of people talk about in crypto. They kind of assumes a foregone conclusion. In the next 5, 10 years, does Bitcoin flip gold in market cap?
That's a great question, and I've never really considered it. I did just see last night that at one point gold had reached a $30 trillion market cap. Um, I don't think that Bitcoin has to flip gold for it to become for crypto in general and for Bitcoin to be wildly successful. Um, I don't want to dodge your question, but that's a great question, and I think it's one that I'll have to say like will be most interesting just to kind of see how that all plays out. There's so many. There's this other thing that's going on now as well, where there's stable coins that are being made that are backed by gold and backed by silver. So, I think crypto and precious metals can exist as friends. And even the investors, there's some people in the gold camp, and maybe a few people, although I don't run into many in the crypto camp that are really at odds with one another. But I don't know, Bren. Did I successfully dodge your question because that's a darn good one. I don't
No,
know. I think
not
I think it's possible. I think it's definitely possible, and people refer to Bitcoin as digital gold. I refer to unicorn fart dust as digital. I said if they're going to call Bitcoin digital gold, I'm going to call unicorn fart dust digital silver because the original emoji, Bren, of this is the original that I took the picture of. If you can see that,
Oh yeah.
the original meme is this on top of two silver coins, two American silver eagles. So yeah, it's going to be a wild 10 years, Bren. I
Oh,
think I think the next 10 years, man. The world was much different back in the 70s and 80s than it is now, and I think from a monetary fiscal perspective, from a crypto, from a precious metals perspective, we're in for some real interesting times ahead.
oh man. Well, I'm ready. Yeah, no, I respect the answer. Again, it's a lot of people, that's always going to be my next question. Does it even matter? Right. If
Yeah,
both of these are going to go up, does it matter if one's, are both going to have adoption in the next 10 years? Like it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Uh,
I can answer one thing about your question. I can guarantee you that unfortunately, this thing, a paper dollar, right, a U.S. dollar, will go down in value relative to Bitcoin and to gold, in my opinion.
real quickly, do you think, are you one of the believers that thinks that, one to believe that you think that they could, the next, like they could back the dollar, the next thing the next reserve currency could be gold itself?
Not necessarily. No, no. I don't. We were on the gold standard in the United States up until 1971. The U.S. dollar was backed by gold. It could happen, and there's some people in the precious metals community that say that could happen. That kind of goes along with the idea of CBDCs by the government when it comes to crypto and that type of thing. I I don't necessarily see that happening. Gold is and silver, and I think crypto and Bitcoin are the same thing. Are like are can they are the money, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The dollar, they set the rules. Like gold and silver, and you throw crypto in there as well. They set the rules, right? I think it's easy for someone like me who grew up in the United States of America to think that to measure everything in dollars, right? Because that's what we do, right? What's the price of gold? What's the price of silver? What's the price of Bitcoin? And we measure it in dollars. Whereas there's another way to look at these things, which is you can look at your gold in terms of ounces. You can look at your silver in terms of ounces. You can look at your unicorn fart dust in terms of how many coins do you own. But it takes a little bit of time for most people, including me, to understand that.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much, Basement Ron. You've given us so much great information and so much of your time. We need to do this again because there's so much more that we could have covered. Um, Honestly, I'd love to do it again. Like
Yeah.
I said, so much valuable information. I appreciate everybody in the UFD community for
Yeah.
coming. Honestly, like I was telling you, super bullish on movement memes making a huge resurgence, and UFD is one of the great remaining ones still going. So honestly, super rooting for you guys. I've been DCAing over the past couple of weeks as I've been, communicating with the community, and I'm going to continue because I'm a big
So you're
believer in you and
you,
the community in general. So
so you're a duster, right, Bren? You
yes, sir.
realize that you're
Proud
dust,
Duster.
you're a diamond hoof duster as well. Horns up, Bren, right?
Yes,
Yeah, we got
sir.
horns up, baby.
Horns up.
Go check out DJ Litmus tonight, if you will. And can I say thank you, MoonPay and Ledger, for sponsoring my channel? I guess I just said it, but thank you.
Yeah, shout out to MoonPay and Ledger. Shout out to the UFD community. Shout out to everybody new who came in. I hope we're able to give you guys some value and some good conversation. Ron, we
Yeah,
need to do it again sometime
yeah.
soon.
Absolutely. Can I tell all the dusters out there, go subscribe or go follow Bren on X? And do you have a YouTube channel also?
Yes, I'm actually just starting the YouTube. We're doing the streams on there right now. Gonna come out
Awesome.
with some more long form content. But yeah, definitely check us out on there. And Ron, anywhere else? Obviously, you're Ron Basement Ron on Twitter, Ron's
Yeah.
Basement on YouTube. Where else can the people find you?
We're on Instagram. The Unicorn Fart Dust has an Instagram. We also have a TikTok. We're on Reddit as well. And I think I'm forgetting something. YouTube, yeah, and X. That's really it. And before I forget, Bren, thank you, okay, and your audience, and thank you for welcoming me. I really enjoyed talking to you. I think there's a lot of great people in crypto, or some really great people, and I'm looking forward to talking to you next time.
Awesome, Ron. You have a great rest of your day, sir.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Bye bye.
See ya. All right. Well, yeah, that was awesome, guys. Let me know, chat, how you guys like that. I think that was amazing. Really trying to make an effort to have great people on, have some great conversations, especially during this time where, not much going on. I want to get into fucking Bitcoin. Obviously, that's why a lot of people are probably on here right now wondering what the fuck is going on. We'll get into that. But before, let me know what you guys thought of that in the chat. My UFD people are still here. I really appreciate you coming on. Big believer in the community. I think UFD, despite it being down 96, 97%, we've seen a lot of these coins, come out of the ashes. I think UFD has a great shot at having a big resurgence again because of the strong community that's not really concerned about price. And then I think Ron's just a fucking spark plug. I love that guy. He's somebody that we should really celebrate in the space. Somebody who has time in the game, who's a positive individual, super bullish on the long term of crypto. I mean, if you just see these guys, we've had Max on the space over the last few months. All these guys that have so many who've been trading before some of us were fucking alive, um, and they all have the same view on the long term view of crypto. There could be some big big volatility along the way, but overall, they're going to keep printing money, debasing the dollar. Crypto is just getting started. You heard Ron, we're in what, early 2000s versions of the internet. back in the early 2000s, internet, nobody was really using it. In fact, a lot of people were calling it a fad. So shout out to all my UFD people again. We do these streams twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Gonna crank it up to four streams here pretty soon. Gonna continue to have great people on. If you have anybody who you'd like to see on, definitely DM me. Um, yeah, Ron is great. But let's go ahead and get into Bitcoin. Obviously, big fucking breakdown on Bitcoin. Put out this tweet here. Yes, a few days ago. What was it? 2 days ago. Um, Hold on. What would you do if Bitcoin did this? 3 months of consolidation often leads to reversal. If it slices through 110K here, we could see a final low in the hundreds and high 90s. Just more time to DCA before the inevitable next leg up. Bitcoin broke through 101, 109, 110, and then now through 107, through that consolidation low. What is next? And first of all, why was I so, oops, I'm not sharing my screen. Why was I so confident in this leg lower? Because simply every time that Bitcoin is consolidated, since 2023, every time it's consolidated for two plus months, it's made at least one more leg lower before finishing its correction. We saw it again in March through May. 2 months of 3 months of consolidation here, made one more leg down, then went higher a few months later. What did we see earlier this year? Two months of consolidation here on Bitcoin, made one more low, moved higher. We got another 3 months of consolidation here, holding the 124K high from July until obviously October. Failed to break that. At that point, I knew, okay, we're approaching this consolidation low. Usually that means we're going to break through it and make a pretty swift move lower. So, where do we go from here? Right? I am still in the belief that in hindsight, looking back in 3 to 6 months from now, whatever, couple months from now, that Bitcoin, this correction will look a lot like the correction we saw in April, which again made 2 or 3 months of consolidation, made one more low, consolidated, and then went higher. I think it's going to look a lot like that in hindsight. Now, what does that mean in the short term? That means that I think we're very likely going to continue to chop down or head down into the hundreds, potentially the 90s. I would not be surprised if it got violent, just like we did in April, spiked down to 90 really quick. But I think that very likely would be the final low, and then we move higher from there. Of course, it's always possible that it just forms a bigger correction and we stay in this correction for months. But generally, I think looking back, especially early next year, that this correction is going to look a lot like the one we saw in April, a lot like the one we saw in January, in April, the one we saw in summer of 2024. I think again, this is just another pullback or correction before Bitcoin moves higher. And I know it seems really fucking stressful right now. I do not enjoy a lot of these coins that I'm in, that I've been DCAing down, 50, 60% from entry. But again, I think this is actually very healthy. And if we are going to have a strong 2026, 2027, this is exactly what you want to be seeing, a coil up into the end of the year. I think that sets up for a very strong 2026. So even though I put out that, move that, was looking like a move lower, I remain very bullish on the mid and long term in crypto. Um, and again, I think we're likely setting up on this next leg for probably the strongest leg we've ever seen with this regulatory clarity, the government, the administration that we have in, with DATs and what's it called, ETFs and adoption and all these different things. I think is very likely to create one of the strongest or the strongest move up we've seen so far. And at that point, if we do get a mania, that's when I would be looking for a more longer term bear market top. Now, to play devil's advocate or really prepare for the bearish scenario, what would change my stance and have me flip and say, you know what, I think we actually are entering a longer term bear phase is one thing. Okay. The impulsivity of this move down. Okay. Meaning we look at the past tops of 2017 and 2021. Both of them consolidated for 6 months or a few months and then came down 50% within a month, meaning it's a very impulsive move. The move was very fast, almost straight red candles from 70K all the way down to 35 in a matter of, sorry, that was 2 months. Very little pullback, 50% in 2 months, right? That is very impulsive. That's not corrective to me. That's indicative of a longer term um, reversal, like a bear market, and that's exactly what we saw. So, what would change my stance here on Bitcoin is if it did something like this, where instead of coming down to the 90s, like I think is going to happen, and chop and head higher, it says, "Fuck that! I'm going to continue and do a 2021 type move and say, oh, I'm going down to 80K in a couple weeks." If we did that and we just saw a straight red candle through this channel, a big fuck you candle to like 80K, at that point I would caution, okay, we're probably looking at a more impulsive move down in a bear market. But again, I think that would have to come with some type of crisis or something breaking in the economy. But just like Ron laid out there in that in the in the stream there, that the powers that be, the central banks, the governments are incentivized to keep the stock market at least from collapsing, right? So of course we're going to get big corrections, but I think what's very likely to happen again is just another, multi-month, maybe a few more weeks, few more months correction, and a move higher, probably to end the year. That's probably my base case. I think we probably chop lower, maybe into November, move higher, probably to end the year. Um, Now, I know there's going to be a lot of fear. I haven't really been checking the timeline too much today. There's going to be a lot of fear. Going to be a lot of people saying bear market tops in. Most people are going to quit. But again, we saw that again in April. We saw it again 2024. Usually gets the darkest, the most bearish, the most hopeless, most boring, usually before things turn. So that's what I'm doing. Obviously everybody, not financial advice. Everybody should do what's best for them in what, for their sanity, for their mental health, for their financial situation. But I'm just telling you what I'm going to do, and what's brought me success on the other end of these corrections is always remaining optimistic and buying the dips on great coins. Of course, not if you don't have dry powder, whatever. I would just continue to hold the coins that have survived these crashes before, because I think on the other end of this is going to be some explosive gains. So yeah, overall, Sol, ETH, Bitcoin, same kind of thing. I think Sol actually looks more coiled on the higher time frames and tells me that we might not get a crazy move down. Maybe back into this. If we moved up from here, honestly, Sol, I would not be surprised. But I also think we could go a little bit lower. Posted this tweet on Sol yesterday. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Sol looks like it wants a final leg down to 170, 180. Obviously, we are into the 170, 180s now. So if we were to go up from here, would not surprise me. I think it could definitely be over. But also looking at Bitcoin the way it's looking here too, I think it's also possible Bitcoin moves down into the low hundreds a bit more. But if you're not trading leverage, you're not short, you're not, whatever, it really shouldn't bother you. I think buying and DCAing and touching grass, still paying attention, but like buying and DCAing and not obsessing too much is just usually the move here. So I just went on a little bit of a rant. I know a lot of you are probably wondering about the majors, but let me know in the chat. Let me know if you guys liked that, the talk with Ron. Let me know, first of all, if you're new in the chat, say new, first time in the stream. Super stoked to have you guys again twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. We do these streams. Like to have great conversations with great people in the space, but also I'll tell you everything I'm doing in the market, the way I see Bitcoin. Obviously, posted the tweet a few days ago talking about how I thought Bitcoin, when it was at about 117, I think 117, when it was at, about 111, said that everything was telling me, the consolidation was telling me we're going to move lower over 107. That's exactly what's happening now. Again, I think we probably moved down to at least the low hundreds. But if Bitcoin ETH just moved up straight from here, that would not shock me either. I'm expecting a little bit lower in the short term, but I think most of the correction is behind us, and the best is yet to come into the end of the year. Let me know. You guys optimistic? Are you feeling stressed? Let me know. If any dusters in here, you make a post, feel free to send me a message and we'll give you. Yes, of course. I'll definitely be retweeting and stuff after the stream too. Appreciate all the support. What the hell's going on with Bitcoin? I hope I answered your question right there. 808. Copy that. Stink bids in the low 80s. Could you analyze Sol too? Yeah. Um, Sol, again, the reason why I'm so confident, pretty even more confident that the majors Bitcoin doesn't drop much lower than the 90s is that Sol on the higher time frames is coiled in a corrective channel. Whereas Bitcoin looks more impulsive. Sol has already been in this corrective channel since September. So I think Sol's pointing to most of the move being done. I could see a little bit lower into the 60s, but Bitcoin, the combination of Sol, ETH, and Bitcoin is telling me that the correction's near its end. Of course, anything's possible. I wouldn't start opening crazy longs or anything like that, but I think most of the corrections behind us. I wanted to ask a question that's wrong, but GG's, I hate these charts making me bald. Sorry about that. I wish I could have. If you asked a question and I didn't get to it, I apologize. Yeah, we'll definitely try to have him on. I think that was a great convo. There's so much more to talk about. What's the lowest we should be expecting on Bitcoin? Uh, if this, that's a great question. What is the lowest here? Let me turn on the screen. What is the lowest that we should be expecting for Bitcoin? I think if this correction is to stay intact and we're in a corrective structure, meaning one that's going to lead us to new highs in the next few months, I'd expect Bitcoin to bottom out in the 90s somewhere at the lowest. Now, if Bitcoin were to show us more impulsive behavior, meaning it just straight went down, you know, like I said, from 110 to 180 in one candle, at that point, it's a different story. We could definitely expect some lower price action, but some lower prices. But to answer your question, base if this correction is to stay intact and we're going to get an April like correction, I expect this bottom to be put in and see some type of consolidation like we saw in March, probably around the low hundreds or the 90s. Checked your stuff before, but excited about becoming a regular viewer. Thank you, Mara. I appreciate that, brother. New first time to stream. Love the content. Keep going. Crazy man. You're a blessing to the community. Thank you, Trench. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have sold last week all my coins and holding 40% Sol, 40% USD, and now 20% memes. Do you think that's yeah, I think that's a good I think that's good. I think having most of your portfolio in majors and stables at all times is a good look. First time on stream, great stream. Thanks you, Fixless. Yo, Brent, any thoughts on Zora? Yeah, let's look at Zora real quick. I didn't get to ask him about the token streaming or the CCM type stuff. Wow, Zora has really held up nicely. Excuse me. That's actually great. There's a lot of stuff going on Zora. I think especially if your portfolio is like under 100,000, I would be farming the hell out of the Zora airdrop. I'm sorry, the base airdrop by using Zora. You can essentially you can post on stuff on there essentially for free. So just you want to get a lot of transactions. Zora is a good way to get it on base, but the coin itself, I think what's likely to happen as long as the market doesn't completely melt down is that this consolidation here for Zora is very likely going to lead to higher. I think Zora's been very strong. If we get a whole market turnaround, like we get what's it called? Um, if we get the Bitcoin and ETH and Sol bottoming out too in the next few weeks, I think Zora is going to continue to fly. Worst case scenario is it breaks below this consolidation, breaks back below here. But mid and long term, I'm very bullish on Zora, and I think it has, along with Base App, one of the few apps out there that has a chance at getting like mass adoption or big adoption. So I like Zora. Moved all liquidity of futures and into spot on UFD and okay, right on. Thank Thankfully a couple days pre last Friday. Okay, keys to watch for displacement then. Yes. What's up, brother? Thoughts on Aster from here? Yeah, let's go and look. What's up, Archer? How you doing? Aster. Wow, yeah. Big correction on Aster. Generally, though, I think Aster in good market conditions with Binance a little tricky now. I don't know if you guys noticed the crypto community, which can be fickle, obviously, is kind of turning on Binance the last few weeks. A lot of stuff going on with the fees and the stuff they've kind of been, quote unquote, exposed for. The kind of the community's kind of a little bit of crazy sentiment around Binance. A lot of the BNB coins are still flying the past few days, but Aster overall, if I had to guess, as long as there's not some type of meltdown from Binance or something crazy that's uncovered, I think very likely what's going to continue to happen, Aster probably chops out. And because of CZ's influence, because of the influence it already has, Aster, I think, probably has a great shot at recovering. But again, it's a lot of stuff that could go down. It's only down 50%. This run, you would expect this is like an 80% drop, but it's about a 50% drop. And I think what's likely to happen, barring something catastrophic happening with Binance or something happening with the app or something with the DEX, I think what's likely to happen is UFD probably recovers here. Of course, it could take a bit. I'd like to see it consolidate for a bit here. So, yeah, 2x back to all time highs. Probably bounces back with the rest of the market. First time here, came for Ron, stayed for your great insight. Well, tuning in again. Thank you. Shout out to the UFT community for real. My network's been misbehaving. I appreciate you, Severon. I can't. By the way, it shows me your guys' at on Twitter. It doesn't show me your actual names, which is kind of annoying. So you got updates on Sui? Yeah, I think Sui's going to generally follow what ETH and Bitcoin do. Maybe come back down one more time in the low twos, but it is also a big L1 that is down 50%. So I think just like this correction, just like this one, just like this one, just like this one, eventually we're going to see Sui bounce back. Again, just because it's one of the top L1s. What's up, Carl? He says, yo, 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 bit late. Appreciate you for being here. Do you already talk about Sol? Yeah, I think Sol is pointing to the correction very likely being very either over or almost over here because of this bigger corrective channel that Sol has been forming versus Bitcoin looks more impulsive on the higher time frames. I put out a post yesterday on Sol. Let's see, or maybe a couple days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. This tweet yesterday on Sol saying, Sol looks like it wants. This is when it was at 188. Said Sol looks like it wants 170 to 180. Final leg down before $300, and of course it didn't make its way down all the way down to 174 here. So, if everything were to bounce back from here, would not surprise me at all. But the way Bitcoin's looking, I also wouldn't be surprised if it did make another leg lower into the low 70s, maybe crack the 60s. But I think Sol is actually pointing, and it looks a lot more obvious to me that this correction is actually a coil up, and this is probably the last leg of the correction, potentially a double bottom forming or a lower low. We have to see, but yeah, I think most of the correction, we're coming to the end of the correction here for Sol very likely, and for the rest of the market. I think we see everything rip. I don't know until the end of into October, but I think into the end of the year, we're going to see Bitcoin ETH Sol very likely higher than they are now. Maybe probably all time highs, to be honest. What do you think about Sui? I think I answered about that. Your Telegram is one of the most trusted channels. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Damn, I forgot I had Sui. Hopefully we'll see Sui all time high soon. Yeah, I think we will. But we're coming up on like 113. I'll hang out here for like another to the 130 mark. Again, not much. I'm stoked we're able to get that convo, and with Ron, we're able to talk a lot about meme coins and kind of the future of that, and then the metals, and I think overall the great coins. And if you want to maybe look at some, if you have some dry powder, you're looking for some coins to add to, I put out a coin list, some coins. And again, I don't have huge positions in all of these coins. I think these are just some coins that I believe in each different category. Obviously, movement memes being what I kind of hold to the highest regard in meme coins, like the highest importance. And then you got brand coins, social currencies, IP memes that are kind of based directly just around the singular meme or an IP, OG coins, and then undervalued L1s, slept on streamer coins. So take a look at this list. But I think generally
these great coins are going to follow what the majors do out of this correction. So a lot of these coins at 80, 90% discounts, maybe not every one of them bounces back, especially the streamer coins are very, very speculative to say the least. But I think most of these coins are going to bounce back 5 to 10x, probably more as the majors move up. So yeah, one second. But yeah, also I appreciate it. You're one of the most trusted channels on Telegram. If you guys haven't already, I know a lot of you guys are already in the channel, but check out the Boss Man Calls Telegram channel. Link in bio. Obviously, super active. I'm super active on Twitter, but on in the Telegram channel, I put out in depth, more longer or more detailed trade ideas on Bitcoin, ETH, all the majors, meme coins. We caught just like we caught in these streams, Pengu SPX, USDUC, Pump. A lot of the runners this year. I put out detailed trade ideas for those days and weeks ahead of time. We are able to catch 5 or 10x's. You'll get it on the streams, but if you like written form, um, definitely check out the channel as well as my business partner Boss Man. A lot of great stuff in there as well. Um, Giveaways sometimes, live streams at times, stuff like that. Definitely check us out if you haven't already. I appreciate it. 20 and 30 though. Damn, I forgot I had Sui. Hopefully, yeah. Thanks for having our UFD dev today, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Fish, I appreciate you, man. I don't know if you heard the yeah. First of all, I don't know if you heard the shout out that Ron gave you at the beginning of the stream. But is where's UFD on that list? UFD to me, I actually put it on the Telegram list. I edited a few. Um, but if I were to put UFD on here, it would either be in movement memes or up and coming Colts. Even though I know you guys are been around for a bit, up and coming / underrated Colts. But I believe it's one of the few great movement memes still left kicking. So a lot of new followers today. Shout out to all you guys for real. Let's see any comments in here. Doshevsky, thanks for sharing, bro. If any of you guys feel obligated or feel like not obligated, feel like you want to clip this stream at all, anything you liked, anything you found value from, I will like, comment, retweet, engage on any of them. Always appreciate it, especially the UFT guys. Brand, he reminds me of Sir Mac. Yes, exactly. That's what I was saying. A lot of similarities between Max and a lot of these guys, man. They're just people have been in the game for a while. They're just optimistic as hell. But yeah, he does remind me a lot of Max. BMCs, let's go. Max Fierce, Max Bullish. Damn, lots of UFD homies. Here's one right there. I retweeted that. But yeah, I think Bitcoin is still probably moved down a little bit more. Expect a lot of people to start freaking out and panicking, but again, I think most of the corrections behind us and the best is yet to come. Obviously, this correction probably will play out differently than April in some way, but generally, if you look at these corrections every time Bitcoin's come down like this, the people that have bought, held, stayed optimistic, didn't freak the fuck out, didn't sell everything, whatever. Usually on the other end, do really well. So that's what I'm continuing to stick to. But I was late today. But did you discuss the UFD chart? Actually, we did not. Let's go ahead and look at UFD. Obviously down 98% like a lot of stuff. But I would compare this to maybe look at Nub, for example. Nub was down 99%. Okay. 99% Nub came down. It's really actually pretty similar chart between Nub and UFD. It obviously before it ran up. But Nub came up, went to 17 cents, and came all the way back down, almost 99%, like 98%, and then bounced back 20x from June to August. So even though UFD is down 98%, we've seen big coins bounce back like this before. It's all about the core community and the operator, in which I think UFD has great has both of these things. Obviously, core community that's super focused on the movement behind it, the charity, the coin, the brand, the unicorn fart dust brand, all of that, not just the price. And then you obviously have Ron, who's just has an audience outside of crypto Twitter, as well as he's just a super optimistic, great leader. So I generally think, obviously it could come down with the rest of the market for a bit longer, but it's something that I have been accumulating, something that's not at zero, still at 12 million. I think, again, because of everything that's going on, other than price, has a very good shot at recovering. What I would really like to see is for it to accept back into this range and then eventually break above that consolidation at 5 cents. If we're able to do that, I think it's going to be off to the races. I think generally, despite whatever these coins look like right now, the ones that are going to continue to do well are the ones that have strong movements, great operators, great teams, and I really like what I'm seeing on that end from UFD. So, to answer your question, yeah, who knows where it goes in the very short term, but I think it has a good shot at bouncing back. What are your thoughts on Mudang? Yeah, that's like one of these coins that are kind of singular memes that are just based around one moment in time. With that being said, it is on Coinbase and I think Binance. There's a good shot it bounces back just because it's was such a big moment in time. With that being said, it's not my top conviction by any means. But it does look like it's coiled into this low. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mudang bounce back. Does it go back to all-time highs? I don't have great conviction in that. But I hope if you are holding Mudang, I hope it does incredibly well. Mahalo for the shout outs. Just want to connect the chads to get the alpha. Yeah. Shout out to you, bro. Carl, Soul gonna make us bags. Yeah. But let me know in the chat, how are you guys feeling? Are you guys stressed the fuck out? I know it might seem like I'm just so positive all the time. Like I'm just default to being fucking bullish all the time. But again, it's just I've lived through I'm literally come up on the 10th year of literally, I think I started dabbling in Forex and crypto 10 years ago, like in October of 10 years ago. I've just lived through these different cycles and I've seen what comes on the other ends of these corrections, especially the ones that aren't even big ones, like a couple multi-month corrections. I just know that there might be temporary pain, but the real pain is panic selling at the bottom, stressing yourself out for, over this doomsday shit, and then the market rips 2 weeks later, leaves you sidelined, and just makes you feel like a fucking bozo. That's the real pain, and I've experienced that many times, or a few times early in their career. So it may seem like I defaulting to bullishness, but I just know optimism is just not only is just like the right way to go, the right move every time, but it's just like so much better for your mental instead of just like worrying, focusing on worrying about everything that could go wrong. I was a bit in pain. It's my first bull. I was a retail noob. Right on, bro. What'd you come in on? Like meme coins, like last year with the whole AI wave, or like what was your honestly Uranus? I don't really have a strong uh, conviction or opinion really on Uranus. I think the chart looks pretty decent, but I think it's pretty polarizing both sides, and I think the chart looks good. I'll say that. What's happening on the timeline? Are people freaking the fuck out or what?
The word whitelist.
It's not playing the sound. Yeah, I don't know why it muted me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Says stream's lagging. Can you hear me though? Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. Um. So the video. So my whole thing was muted for the last few minutes. Oh, but it was playing my sound or like me talking. Yeah, Randy Zuckerberg. Yeah, I was right. Okay. Yeah, no, this is like Zuckerberg's sister. It was just like back in 2021, back kind of when the world was really on the woke wave. She was talking about how whitelists were shouldn't use the term whitelist, which is really funny. Interesting. If you guys are looking in the CCM realm, honestly, like I think token streaming, and I wish I could have asked Ron about that. I think it's inevitable that we're gonna get some type of wave because I think big streamers, mid or big level streamers, saw what small guys coming in making 300 G's. I think somebody's gonna come in and say I can make 1 million in a day. We do it, which will ignite it and ignite a kind of a mania. I think if you believe this, I think definitely check out Michael Curlio, aka Bunny Fufu. He's a long term like League of Legends streamer. Has a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter and YouTube. Great guy. Been able to connect with recently. He has a streaming coin called Bun Coin, which other than like one day, I believe he's been streaming since he started. Oh wow, this coin's actually holding up nicely. Since the started on September 13th, a little bit more than a month, he's been almost 24/7. He made about 200K in uh, what's it called? Creator fees within a few days. He's been super on it, holding spaces every day with the community, trying to learn. I believe that when these runners are ignited and kind of this mania is ignited in the streaming meta, that we're going to see the people that stuck around and are consistent, like the Buns, the Alex Becker, stream, uh, what's it called, Gainsey, maybe Rasmer, some of these other guys that have been really consistent, even though they're not the biggest mainstream names. I think they're the ones that likely could run the hardest. um, I think there's a few out there that are going to survive, and I think Buncoin, obviously 293K, way lower than anything you'll ever see me call. But I think these streaming coins are in a crazy place right now where they've gotten so demolished. But if the streaming coins in general have a run, which I think there's a chance, there's some amazing entries. I think on stuff like Buncoin. Obviously, super high risk. This could literally go to zero. I don't, but I think it's more likely that it doesn't and that it goes to the multiple millions than going to zero. Any thoughts on manipulation things going between U.S. and China? Yeah, you're back. Okay, good. Thanks, Double Up. Any thoughts on the manipulation going on with U.S. and China? A lot of people like to throw around manipulation, which there's definitely manipulate, like there's definitely people insider trading and having knowing stuff, but I think that's in every market you're going to come across. There's going to be insiders and people who know ahead of time, whether it's equities, crypto, meme coins, especially. I think especially in the stuff like this where there's it's so complicated. I think just focusing on manipulation and blaming, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing at all, double up, but a lot of people do. They blame manipulation for their losses and don't take full responsibility. I think it's just important to take complete responsibility. Everything's your fault. I think everything's our fault in the markets. With that being said, of course, there's manipulation. I think the manipulation's more quote unquote manipulation or kind of shenanigans are more so going on the side of, if you look into it, the people whoever dumped the stable coins onto Binance, the USDUE, and just around Binance in general, that whole flush, there's a lot of interesting stuff going around that. I think that's, you know, more interesting to look at. I think that's more pointing to quote unquote manipulation versus, the insider trader that made 200 million. Could that have been Barron Trump? Sure. But it could also have been somebody involved with the Binance dump flush as well. So, manipulation always going to happen, always going to be insiders. I think but to blame it on all manipulation, the market's rigged, saying we're fucked because of that, it's just like, I think being able to trade and I think, yeah, I don't know, I think there's obviously going to be insiders all the time, but I don't really see it as quote unquote manipulation. You just gotta learn to see it for what it is, or see the shit happening. No, it's lagged for a moment for me. Okay, I hope you can see it now. Deep in trenches, Andrew Tate got me in and then rugged me. Oh wow. My first Insta $100 in seconds. Then being the degen I am, started to scan, and ever since I've been here, loved the game. 2024 and that came in. I was a degen in 2020, but was exit liquidity. Got wrecked. Well, shout out to you, Carl. Honestly, keep going. Like the fact that you're going to keep going. Yeah, the best lessons, the most shit I've ever learned has been from getting rugged or losing money. So the fact that you're still here, bro, I think this cycle, if you haven't already, you're going to do really well, bro. Keep it up. You're doing great work. Thanks, man. I'll log off here in a second. I don't want to keep these streams going too much. I don't think there's a lot going on. Again, if we do continue to move down, expect. Oh, this is also something to look out for, the FWOG NFTs coming up. I think NFTs are in an interesting place right now. A lot of the main coins, like we got Azuki at 1.1314. You got Penguins down to 1.7. Kind of all of these utilities, the coins, all this stuff where we retraced all of these lows. I still am a big believer that NFTs are, because of the technology and how popular collecting is in the general public, that NFTs are going to have, at least the few that have survived, are going to have a big resurgence in probably 26, 27. I really love VFriends. I think VFriends right now is positioned the best to attract the most new digital collectors, real people outside of Web3. I don't see anybody else doing it. They've added a Privy wallet that allows people to buy VFriends NFTs through Rarible with their credit card without ever having to touch ETH, or with Apple Pay. I think what that's going to unlock, I think the winner of the NFT floor price battle is going to be the people that can attract the most non-crypto people, the people that can reward crypto native holders, but also mostly bring in new collectors and make the outside world give a fuck about the IP. And I think VFriends does that the best. With that being said, I think the top, the top 5 to 10 IP NFTs from 2021 should make a bounce back. I really like, the art. Obviously, you got the Beeples, the X copies, the CryptoPunks, which is a kind of own thing. And then I think the most slept on narrative is going to be, or right now, is the meme coin NFT narrative, where meme coins and NFTs convergence, NFT collections belonging to a meme coin, where people are able to represent or rep their favorite collection with their PFP tokenized version. I think that's going to be very popular. I think the Sprotos, the Aeons, the Pond NFT that I have, which, thank the Lord, this thing's already back at 34 Sol floor. A lot of speculation around this and what the original 100-piece Pond collection could offer to the new FWOG collection. But with that being said, yeah, I think we're going to get a resurgence in NFTs, with the meme coin NFTs seeing a lot of gains. The upcoming FWOG collection, which they're supposed to launch another one, they're launching another one, I assume is going to be a bigger 5 to 10K PFP collection. Could very well be what sends NFTs or helps send NFTs back to prominence as well. So I'm really bullish on digital assets, great digital assets going into the end of the year. What do we do in the next couple of weeks? Kind of a mystery. I think we probably continue to chop down, but I think most of this correction is behind us on Bitcoin and ETH, Sol, and like always, the majors will drive the rest of the market higher or lower. And I think just like April, just like last year around this time, I think the next big move is going to be the upside. So what does that mean for memes and alts? Everything strong, probably very strong 2026. And just like you heard Ron say on the stream today, we're very, very early days in crypto. And obviously that means the people that stuck around, invested in these great assets now, are gonna fucking eat. So yeah, I think the next few weeks, obviously, a lot could play out, but I think we're towards the end of this correction, and I'm super fucking excited to be involved in this industry in general. SPX 500, S&P 500 looks like either it could chop down one more time, or if it clears 6,700, could be done here. Has been consolidating for a week at above 6,500. This could very well go to all-time highs from here, but if it gave us one more low, I think would very likely be the final one and would follow Bitcoin, ETH, SOL back to the upside. So I'm bullish on equities, stocks, crypto going into 2026. And yeah, not much use in obsessing on anything until then. I'm really just resting, taking care of myself, working out every day, eating right, getting my sleep, because ultimately I know when things do get hectic, even if I'm super on top of my shit, ultimately that kind of stuff is harder to focus on. So right now, might want to think about doing that. I think we had this clip. Nigma talked about it last week on stream. Talked about how he thinks honestly it's 95% mindset, 5% charts, and the importance of prioritizing your health and all this stuff. I know it's cliche. A lot of us are young. I'm a little bit older than probably a lot of you guys. But even when you're younger, it's like, why do I need to take care of my health? This is the time to go hard. But even at 21 years old, especially, I was the most unhealthy at 21. Just either not having your mental right as far as like turmoil in your regular life, or just taking care of being hydrated, eating right, all that stuff. Like it just allows you, I don't know, it just sets you up for success so much more. And if you don't have those things right, it's very easy to be impulsive. It just makes it a lot harder on yourself. And it's really easy to burn out. Even at 21, 22 years old, there's times where I was getting no sleep and trading Forex every night, where I eventually just burn out. And it's just not great for profitability either. So that's what I'd be doing during this time. And I think, again, on the other end of this is very likely going to rival or be stronger, more exciting, more opportunities than the 2024 meme run. I think everything is setting up for that. And yeah, I think it's not if, but when. Let's see. What are the big memes doing today? Giga, SPX, MOG, down 12% on Giga. Damn. Giga, man. Here, I'll share my screen. Giga. Man, Giga, I think if it comes down to 50, that'd be pretty insane. I think Giga very likely bounces back near all-time highs, about a 10x away. Giga, just like UFD, is just an incredibly strong, passionate, like positive group of individuals who don't really give a fuck about price or not complaining about it. They have a fitness brand, one of the strongest meme coins, one of the strongest movement communities in the world. You look at this list I put out, you see how I talk about movement memes, brand coins, singular memes. Giga and Giga Chad could fall into 3 or 4 of these categories alone. So I'm super bullish on it despite price going down. I think stuff like Giga, SPX, MOG, you don't have to overcomplicate it. You just look at coins that have survived these crashes before. Easy money on the end of this. SPX probably goes a little bit lower. Wouldn't be surprised if this is the final low and it does some shit like this. Boom. I think SPX. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen, but I think SPX has a shot at I think SPX, again, coming back down here, could make one more low in the channel, but also could just double bottom and very likely does some shit like this to end the year. I think SPX, no fucking brainer. Even though it's at $1 billion, I think these ones go to 5 to 10 easily. And like Ron said, I don't know how I did that. Like Ron said, looking back 3, 4, 5 years ago from now, the meme coin industry will look a lot different and a lot more sustainable with a few names dominating. As always, Brandon Firestream, appreciate you. Wise words. I'm too. Thanks for all the positive perspective, brother. I appreciate you, Archer. Thoughts on Cupsy? I'll look at Cupsy one more real quick. But yeah, while I pull that up, if you guys came on today, you enjoyed the conversation with Ron or anything else on here, make sure to like, comment, retweet, shoot me a follow, turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next one. Again, every Tuesdays and Fridays, 10 a.m. or usually 11. We did a little earlier with Ron today, 11 a.m. PST. Got to crank it up to 3 or 4 more days here soon, or 3 or 4 days total here soon. Again, we're gonna continue to have great conversations, talk about everything I'm doing in the market, charts, meme coins, your one-stop shop for everything kind of going on in crypto, place to hang out. Again, this last few 6 months we've been able on stream together to catch SPX, Pengu, USDUC, a lot of these coins when a lot of the rest of the market was fudding them. Done to learn a lot together this year. So if you enjoyed being in here, first of all, first time in the stream, always love having you guys in here, working on something, some education, free education for everybody new in here to send you to hopefully get some more free value, some stuff that I've learned over the years. But with that, guys, I think right now is the time to not give up and not check out of crypto. Definitely get your rest, get rested up. But I think just like all you got to study is study these past corrections of the last few years. They look a lot of similarities in price. But on the other end of these corrections comes not only gains, but just like complete opposite vibes. You think right now there's doomsday. It seems like everybody's kind of, pissed off and sad, like whatever for good reasons. But the best is yet to come in both gains, vibes, all that good stuff. The people that continue, don't give up, don't panic sell the bottom, end up doing incredibly well. So I'm excited to see a lot of people in the stream, have life changing gains, learn a lot, and I'm blessed to be able to be on here with you guys every Tuesdays and Fridays. With that, I appreciate you retweeting Scripto. Been talking for about an hour and 40 minutes straight here. I'm gonna go ahead and log off. Take care of yourself. Again, don't do anything stupid trying to revenge trade using leverage. Don't overcomplicate it. I think just buying and holding spot movement memes. A lot of these coins I listed on the list are gonna yield great gains on the other side of this correction. So whatever side of the crypto world you're on, if you're from UFD, you're already on the regular on the stream. You're from the Bossman Calls Telegram channel. I appreciate you. Again, retweet, like, comment, bookmark, shoot me a follow, and I'll see you guys on the next one on Tuesday. I appreciate you.